a.m. 9:30 a.m. Just testing microphone, making sure everyone hears. Today, May 8th, actually, I believe the first council meeting in the month of May. Before I call to order, Mr. Kirk, you have something to say.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the benefit of the public viewing this meeting, normally the mayor would chair council meetings. Unfortunately, the mayor was not able to attend this morning. And pursuant to the procedure bylaw, the chair of a meeting must be in person. So the mayor has kindly requested the deputy mayor to chair them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kirk. So it's my privilege to chair the meeting council this morning as deputy mayor. Before I formally start the meeting, I'd like to read the land acknowledgement statement. We are gathering on lands that have been home to First Nations peoples from time immemorial. We acknowledge that what we now call Richmond Hill is on the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the Mississauga and Chippewa nations of the Williams Treaty. We also recognize we are on part of the traditional territories of Haudenosaunee and the Huron-Wendat. We also like to acknowledge of all First Nation, Inuit, and Métis peoples from across North America, also known as Turtle Island, who now reside in the city of Richmond Hill. We are committed to rebuilding constructive and cooperative relationships. After this, I would like to, if you're able to rise, please rise for the national anthem. You may take the seat now. Now, I understand I was about to say there's no regrets from council members' attendance, including Mayor West on the screen. We do have one person who has registered for the public forum. Yes, at this point in time, I would like to call upon Aram Ranjapur. Would you like to come up? And this is, you have a request. You have 5 minutes.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Hello, everybody. My name is Aram Rajapur. Today, I wanted to request the city to put up bollards along a bridge on Major Mackenzie, where Major Mackenzie goes over the East Don River. That's just west of the Major Mackenzie Hospital. And I went to Alexander Mackenzie High School when I was a teenager, and I had to walk along this bridge every day, back and forth. And every single time, subconsciously, I felt a sense of danger on this location. And I provided a picture of where I'm talking about. Most of Major Mackenzie, there's quite a big buffer between the sidewalk and the road, but along this bridge, the buffer becomes very tiny and you brush up against cars. Now, I think there's a particular danger because there's a school nearby and people may be walking in groups and they may be going in the morning when there's rush hour and people are trying to get to Highway 400. And there is a speed limit of, I think, 60 kilometers an hour here, which is basically guaranteed fatality if you get hit. And when I walk here with my dog, I fear for her safety. And I also bike here often. I would think if I fell off my bike, I would instantly die. So I think that if bollards were placed along that small buffer that you see in the image, then the safety of the bridge would be greatly improved and the psychological feeling it gives to pedestrians would be improved. Could I go to the next slide, please? Okay, this is a picture from the other way. And by the way, this this sidewalk situation is on both sides of the street. So I think what I'm saying should apply for both sides of the street. You see in this picture, there's a large truck coming towards me and I didn't wait for this picture. I took this yesterday as I was walking. So I'd like to say that there's also the proposed developments to the east of this location would increase the traffic volume along this street and would make it even more dangerous in the future. So I think as a proactive measure before any dangerous events occur, the city should put up the bollards, and I think there's adequate space. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming to bring this matter to council's attention. Much appreciate the photographs. A photo, really speaks volume. Thank you very much. On that note, we don't have anyone else registered for public forum. This is the time for my council members' announcements. Any announcement? Yes, Councilor Civilis.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. Good morning, everybody in council chambers and watching us online. Just one word I'd like to say. Aram, thank you so much for your presentation. However, Major Mackenzie is a York Regional Road. So if bollards are to be put up there, it has to go through the region. We have our regional representatives, and I'm sure that they can have that further discussion with you on how we can get the region to attend to that matter. But I completely support you. Well done. This week, May 5 to 11, marks the 55th annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week. And I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention because we have a spectacular clerks department led by our chief clerk, Mr. Stephen Hike, our deputy clerk, Mr. Ryan Ban, and an army of amazing men and women who man and woman our clerk's department every day and sometimes night of the week. So on behalf of all of council and on behalf of all of our residents, and some are here today, happy Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and thank you for everything that you do for us in the city. On a more somber note, Monday was a day that's known as Yom HaShoah, which is a day that recognizes the anniversary of the Warsaw Uprising, the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. We need to keep in mind when we are aware of these types of commemoration days. There are two of them for the Holocaust. One is in January and one was this week. The Holocaust saw the horrific persecution and torture and murder of 6 million men, women, and children simply because they were Jewish. There is a saying that Jewish people say when we refer to the Holocaust, and that is never again. Never again will we allow something like that to happen. And through this time that we are experiencing the war in Israel and Gaza, I think it behooves us to remember there are still hostages that are missing from the attack on Israel by Hamas terrorists on October the 7th of last year. There are over 130 hostages that still remain unknown. We don't know if they're alive or if they're dead. Men, women, and 2 babies. So I just want to do, as the Jewish person on council, I wanted to bring this forward because I think that the times that we are going through and all the problems and the hate and the hurt that we see around the world because of the tensions and the war in the Middle East, I do believe that if everybody just kept the forefront of their mind the fact that there are soldiers dying, there are hostages who are unknown, and there are Palestinian civilians who are also living in a hellhole as a result of the terrorist organization that is their government. So never again, and never again is now. And the Jewish people are very much aware of that with the rise in anti-Semitism. So for all those, there's 6 million Jews who were murdered mercilessly during the Second World War by the Nazi regime led by Hitler. What we say in Jewish people say when someone dies or to commemorate the death of someone, may their memories forever be a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Councillor Civilis. We certainly Richmond Hill and York region any hate is unacceptable. Next, I'd like to turn to Councillor Tree.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a few announcements here. The first one is this Sunday is the Mother's Day. I see Happy Mother's Day for everybody. And if you have parents my mama with you, please give me a call. I'll send your best wish to your mom, and also I say best wish. And the city will host a Mother's Day lunch on this Friday in McCarty Center. So welcome, John. Another one is in the World for last weekend, we host our food bank drive events. Thank you for all the residents come here for your generosities. So we collect around 18 boxes of food and we send to the food bank already. Appreciate one more time for all the efforts from our residents, help people who need. Another announcement, it was related this Saturday. The Mackenzie Health Foundation, we are hosting a running and walking events in Wonderland. Your support is available. So Sunday or Saturday morning, if you have time, please join us as well. Also, let me just check my notes here. Yeah, also last week, we hosted citywide as a sports award. We have a lot of Olympic Games winners, also the international competitors as well. So thank you for city staff to support us, and also appreciate and say the best wish to all the winners, young winners from the sports areas. I have another few, hold on, too many things here. Yeah, that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's good to check before you finish. Thank you, Councillor Tree. Next, we have Councillor Davidson. Councillor Davidson, please.
Thank you. Excuse me, through you, Acting Chair. I just wanted to say, excuse me, that I also want to say thank you to the clerks. Take the opportunity, because I think any of us who were new on council this term didn't know what we were doing. And honestly, I know for myself, I wouldn't have been able to follow the very complex rules of municipal government, and they never stop helping us. And I don't think clerk is the appropriate term for the amount of behind the scenes stuff that the clerk's office and the clerk in particular, Stephen and Ryan, hands-on. There are so many rules and regulations that I know as a resident you don't know, and it really should be, municipal virtuoso. Clerk just doesn't seem to do it. But my announcement is that this Saturday, May 11th, between 9:30 and 1:30, there is the Oak Ridges Lions Club Community Cleanup. We picked up tons of garbage last year. So if you have a little bit of time, whether you live in Oak Ridges or even drive through Oak Ridges, please come by the Académie de la Marraine Elementary School at 9:30. There's a barbecue, there's always snacks, lots of camaraderie. So that's this Saturday, our garbage cleanup. Thank you.
Welcome. It's always good to help clean up, whether it's Oak Ridges and other parts of Richmond Hill. And that note, I actually have a speaking order here. Next is Regional Local Council DePaula, and then Mayor West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just two announcements I'd like to make. The first is that on Friday, I'm going to be hosting a seniors safety seminar at the Rouge Woods Community Center. It'll be open to all residents of Richmond Hill. And the emphasis is it's being hosted by myself, but in partnership with York Region Police, and the emphasis on teaching and promoting safety for seniors with all the scam phone calls that they're subjected to, and emails, and just to educate residents here in Richmond Hill how to avoid being frauded or having your identity stolen, and some other safety tips from York Region Police on how to secure your property and your household. So everyone's welcome to come out on Friday to Rouge Woods Community Center. And the other thing I'd like to mention, Mr. Chair, is a big congratulations to Richmond Hill's own Taylor Pendriff. So Taylor was born in Richmond Hill, raised here, went to Bayview Secondary School, and from there was drafted to American College, and then has been on the PGA for a number of years on the PGA Tour. And on Sunday, he won the $9.5 million Byron Nelson Classic, which is a huge achievement for any professional golfer, but for someone residing right here in Richmond Hill, it's a big honor for our city. And we saw with the Breakfast of Champions Sports Awards the success that Richmond Hill athletes have around the world, competing nationally and internationally. It's amazing that we've produced so many successful athletes in such a diversity of sports. Gold medals in kayaking and jiu-jitsu, and we are known as a city of champions when it comes to producing world-class figure skaters and Olympians and gold medalists in figure skating. We honored another young figure skater, but now we add golf to the repertoire for Richmond Hill, where our residents are dominating on a world stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Those are certainly good news. Thank you. Next, I turn to Mayor West. Mayor West.
Well, thank you very much. And my apologies for not being able to be there today. Unfortunately, I'm not feeling well, so I'll do the virtual thing. Thank you to everybody. There's certainly a lot going on in Richmond Hill. I do also want to acknowledge Taylor Pendriff, and given my lack of golf ability, if I'm in a golf tournament in the next little while, I'm going to see if I can call him to be on my team in a best ball tournament. That might help me. Anyway, thank you very much. World Migratory Bird Day has happened on is happening on May the 11th. That's an important day for us in Richmond Hill due to the pressure that birds and are suffering worldwide, and we are a bird-friendly city now. I also wanted to acknowledge the National Palliative Care Week, which is May 5th to 11th, and there is a walk for Hill House Hospice coming up on May the 26th. So I would encourage everybody to get involved in that. And we also raised the Hill House Hospice flag the other day for the first time in front of Richmond Hill offices. So that was great. I wanted to acknowledge also that May is Melanoma Skin Cancer Awareness Month. And I think that's important. Given our sunny weather is starting to happen now, and people are walking around not all bundled up like we do in the winter, and there is a need for people to be taking the precautions that they need to do to protect themselves against that. And second last, I do want to say that Richmond Hill Council showed their support for Canadian Mental Health Week that happened between May 6th and 12th. And this year's theme is a call to be kind. CMHA wants to remind us that we all have the capacity to be compassionate and give kindness and compassion. They do make an enormous difference. So that's another one. And then the last one, I just wanted to mention that we celebrated National Youth Week from May 1st to 7th. And we certainly were happy to have different activities available for people in our community who fall into the youth category and celebrate them and their achievements. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mayor West. Next, I have Councillor Thompson. Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you very much, through you, the chair. Yes, there's a lot happening this weekend, particularly on Saturday, May the 11th. And I just want to make note of a couple of them. One in particular would be the Richmond Hill Garden and Horticultural Society. They're having their annual plant sale at the McConaughey Center. There's also a studio tour happening on Saturday as well. Doors Open is a big activity happening this particular weekend on Saturday. And, if there's a number of different things, you could go to the website and see what particular places you'd like to go and check out. Our own BIA, the Business Improvement Area, it will have a booth at the McConaughey Center. There'll be a greeter on Yonge Street. There's lots of places to grab lunch, a snack, a milkshake. A lot of different businesses are a part of this, and things that are very close by to as part of the Doors Open would be the Heritage Center, the Richmond Hill Sports Hall of Fame, our Richmond Hill United Church, the Presbyterian Church, and St. Mary's Anglican Church will all be opening their doors. So certainly come out for that. And also happening on May the 11th is the Walk for Hope with L'Arche Daybreak. I will be a part of Mayor West's team in that, and there's still time to join and be part of that walk. So those are my my announcements for this weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, maybe I would take this opportunity to also make some announcement. And thank you, Mayor West. Mentioned about is already Mental Health Week this week, and the theme is the call to action is really to connect, Compassion Connect. And right here in York Simcoe area, we do have the Canadian Mental Health Association offers more than 30 programs free to youth, families, caregivers. So please connect with them. And as well, I would say courageous men and women serving in Richmond Hill Fire Emergency Services. I want to say thank you very much to them, because also this week is the Emergency Preparedness Week. And the theme of this year is Plan for Every Season. And I'm really take pride to say in Richmond Hill, actually, we produce English as well as a brochure in different languages. I can count at least 3, if not more, Chinese, Farsi, and Russian, and helping people to prepare with a kit, the emergency kit usually for what you need for the 72 hours, so-called the golden period for survival. So this is something that I would urge every individual do a plan for the safety for yourself, for your family. Safety is number one. So language should not be a barrier. And as well, as you have heard, my colleagues would be very busy along with the community this weekend. But today, May 8th, is the annual Mud Happy Day. So I would pick probably surmise that most, if not all, my colleagues would be happily volunteering the time to serve at different McDonald's stores in Richmond Hill today. And this is for, of course, for the charity Ronald McDonald House, a room in a hospital whereby particularly for children who are sick and can, with the family, can stay with them in the hospital. I, for one, I will be serving, I don't know about flipping burgers, but certainly helping people at 2 locations in Richmond Hill. And my colleagues are probably everywhere, cover from Highway 7, which I will be in at Valemede. And I'm sure some of my colleagues will be up in Oak Ridges, 16th Avenue, and all these other places. So come to visit us. I'll be at the 420 Highway 7 location, as well as the 16 and Leslie. But we are all covered. And you know what? This weekend will be lots of activities here. So maybe contribute to a good cause. And maybe in that case, we are all doing good to our community. Thank you so much, everyone. With no further announcement, then I'm going to move to the next order of business. Any member interested in introduction of emergency or time-sensitive matters? Seeing none, I'll be happy to move on to adoption of agenda. And any member move for adoption of agenda? Regional Councilor DePaula, thank you, and seconded by Councilor Civilis. Any discussion? If no, all those who are in favor, please raise your hand. It's carried unanimously. And we do have a previous council minutes that was held on April 24th this year. Could I have a member move for adoption of the minutes? Yes. Of course. That's something particularly in presence of our Integrity Commission here today. I just want to make sure that it was being caught. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof, members? Seeing none, can I have a member move for a motion to adopt the previous council minutes in April? Thank you. Councilor, moved by Councilor Davidson, second by Councilor New. All those in favor? Carried unanimously again. Now, any members want to pull out or identify any items that require separate discussion? Seeing none. So we still need to adopt the remainder, and I think we already adopted if there's everything is on consent.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Chair. Actually, there are 2 items that are automatically held for this meeting. And all the other items can go on consent.
Okay, so we do need a motion for the adoption of the remainder of the agenda. So can I have a mover? Councilor Davidson again, and Councilor Silver second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Again, I'm happy to say is carried unanimously. Next is public hearing. We don't have any public hearing today, but we do have presentation. And it's my distinct pleasure to welcome our Integrity Commissioner, Susan Gray, regarding her annual report to the city's Integrity Commissioner. Welcome, and I believe this is the first annual report. So we have Mr. Kirk. This is a little bit unusual because it's an annual report. So we have 15 minutes for this presentation. Integrity Commissioner Gray, the time is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Deputy Mayor, Mayor virtually, and members of council. I'm here today to table the 2023-2024 annual report of the Office of the Integrity Commissioner. Subsection 223.61 of the Municipal Act states that the Integrity Commissioner shall provide a periodic report to the municipality on her activities. This report covers the period from my appointment in April 2023 to May 2024. Next slide, please. Integrity, as defined by many notable scholars, is doing the right thing when no one is looking. Integrity is a foundational principle of any municipality's framework and the bedrock upon which codes of conduct are developed. Acting with integrity in your role as individual members of council or local boards is understanding, accepting, and choosing to act in your official capacity in accordance with the approved principles enshrined in the code. Following the MFP or Bellamy inquiry, as it was known in 2006, as a result of Justice Bellamy's findings and recommendations, the City of Toronto and the Municipal Act brought in mandatory requirements for Toronto and optional requirements for the other 443 municipalities to have accountability officers, most notably integrity commissioners. In 2019, the requirement to appoint an integrity commissioner became mandatory for all municipalities. There is nothing in the code that prohibits you having a perspective. There's nothing in the code that precludes an elected or appointed member from having a position, raising questions respectfully. However, while having a particular perspective, position, or belief on a matter is allowed under the Municipal Act and your code, it cannot override the advice of staff on statutory requirements, the requirement to carry out all the purposes of the municipality and follow the rules of your procedural bylaw. The rules of the Code of Conduct are not in place to prevent a member of council or local board from carrying out the objectives for which they ran for office and were elected or appointed. However, when a member is elected or appointed, they cease to represent a particular group on a matter of interest and become one part of the governing body. Importantly, code rules guide members to not participate in activities that grant or appear to grant any special consideration, treatment, or advantage to an individual which is not available to all in your municipality. Next slide, please. As the municipality's integrity commissioner, as do many appointed to this role in Ontario, I am guided by Justice Bellamy's recommendations, which set out the benefits of having an accountability officer. An integrity commissioner is a municipal accountability officer who is responsible for carrying out rules governing the ethical conduct of members of municipal council and local boards. This office, in carrying out its duties, signals to the public that this government is committed to ethical good governance, accountability, and transparency. Rules on code compliance require clarification and interpretation from time to time. Thus, having the institution of the Integrity Commissioner creates an independent, objective, third party to provide guidance based on best practices. While voluntary compliance is always preferred, as Justice Bellamy set out in her recommendations, where the public interest is involved, there should be a regime that contemplates deterrence in the form of consequences for non-compliance. Next slide, please. My duties as Integrity Commissioner include to clarify, if needed, the rules of the code to ensure that the rules are clear, not only to members, but the public and staff. I'm a resource to members to assist in understanding your roles and responsibilities. Another important duty is Code and Municipal Conflict of Interest Act complaint investigations. Through the code rules, an organization is saying, this is how we espouse our values. And we have a process for investigating complaints when one of our members' actions, conduct, or behavior is alleged to not align with your espoused values. I take the completion of fair, objective, and thorough complaint investigations seriously. The complaint protocol sets out the steps that I will follow when in receipt of a complaint. And finally, of course, the Office of the Integrity Commissioner's annual report, which is an opportunity to report to you the number of informal and formal complaints, if any, and any activities that I identify as trends or systemic issues. Next slide, please. With reference to the statistical reporting of my office, There have been 27 code-related inquiries. I note that included in these inquiries from the public, there was a body of communication that I received from the same individual related to matters outside of my jurisdiction. As is my practice, I advise the individual of my jurisdictional limitations. Other inquiries from the public related to displeasure with council decisions. Decisions of council of the whole are procedural matters that do not fall within my jurisdiction. A few members of council sought my advice regarding matters relating to the application of the code and the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. 3 inquiries came from staff, and they were simply seeking clarification on my new role and the meaning of some of the provisions of the code. I received 5 formal complaints, of which 2 were consolidated into 1 complaint, with my findings submitted to council and adopted by council. The other 3 formal complaints were dismissed. As I set out in the report before you, the 3rd formal complaint which I received, while it was clear that the allegations set out in the complaint were similar to those that were made in the complaint brought to council, I was barred by statute from investigating an individual who is no longer a member of council. In 1 formal complaint, the complainant alleged that the respondent their conduct contravened Section 12 of the Ontario Human Rights Code and municipal related policies. I dismissed the complaint advising that the review of human rights contraventions under the Ontario Human Rights Code are enforceable by way of application to the tribunal. Without getting into a lot of detail and mindful of the confidentiality requirements of my office, generally, if during a preliminary review, I determined that I have grounds to investigate the actions or behavior of a member of council that trigger the rules of the Human Rights Code and your policies. There is a bifurcated process wherein I seek a determination of a threshold assessment under human rights. And if the actions of the member in their official capacity trigger the human rights rules, there will be a human rights investigation, after which I will determine if there have been breaches of the code. To be clear, I dismissed the complaint because it related to the member in their private capacity, not because I made a decision on the merits. Finally, in another formal complaint, upon review of the information provided to me, I made a preliminary classification decision that the complaint related to matters respecting the actions and omissions and decisions of the administration relating to a matter under investigation by staff and part of a claim to the City of Richmond Hill. I make the recommendation that I work with your staff to ensure that there is a clear distinction between code of conduct complaints and other complaint handling. Of guidance for your staff is the Ombudsman's recommendation in the complaint handling guide. In this guide, he distinguishes between requests for service, complaints, inquiries, suggestions, and code of conduct complaints, and also establishes the separate processes for monetary claims. Likely this already exists in your municipality, but I recommend, and it is my goal, to work with your staff to ensure that members of council are clear on their rules as it relates to responding to the public, and the public is clear on what is outside of my jurisdiction. Last slide, please. Upon my appointment, I was advised by council and the city that I was to endeavor to review your code of conduct documents. I reviewed the code of conduct approved in September 2018, code of conduct for local boards approved in 2023, and several other documents. Relying on my experience in drafting council codes of conduct and having conducted an environmental scan of best practices, I have before you my recommendations. My revisions did not include any substantive changes to the responsibilities of members of council and local boards. I've attached my revisions to these documents and submit the same appended to the annual report for council's consideration and receipt. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Greg. This is well presented, as well as a report to council, which is part of the documentation. As you mentioned, Commissioner, there is a clearly stated recommendation. On this note, I would ask perhaps members of council bring forward the motion. Yes, Councillor Syphilis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Madam Commissioner. I will gladly move the recommendations on our agenda today and acknowledge receipt of your presentation with thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
From a personal and professional perspective, I want to thank you for the work that you do and that you have done. It is an absolute pleasure having you, Madam Commissioner Suzanne Craig, as our Integrity Commissioner. And I am pretty sure that I speak for members of council and our staff as well. You've done an amazing job under some very difficult circumstances. We thank you, and hopefully there's not too many complaints that do come forward in the next year, but if they do, we know that that complaint is in very good hands. Thank you.
Thank you. And so you did move the motion, right, Councillor? Thank you. And next on my speakers list is Councillor Davidson. Councillor Davidson, sorry.
Pardon me, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to clarify which motion has been moved here, because the practice at this stage would be just to receive the presentation, and then we would deal with agenda item 15.1 after all delegations. So I just wanted to clarify that that's the intent. Council, of course, can certainly choose to do otherwise, but that would be the normal practice.
Thank you. Upon the advice from our professional clerk, so the motion that actually Councillor Students move is to receive the presentation with thanks. Thank you. On that note, next I turn to Councillor Davidson, please.
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. If we want to ask the commissioner questions about what she said, we're waiting for that? No, we're doing it now. Okay, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for your hard work in keeping, offering residents an avenue to stay on top of our behavior. I believe it's an essential part of democracy. Does your work include, you said boards, does that mean if someone had a complaint about the library board at Richmond Hill that they could go through you to ask, to lodge a complaint?
Through you,
Commissioner?
Acting Chair. Councillor Davidson, the Municipal Act has a section known as Accountability and Transparency, Section 5.1. In that section, although the library board is a local board of a municipality, there is a carve-out for the library board and other boards like Police Services Board, Public Health Board, that are not within the jurisdiction of the Integrity Commissioner. And so complaints about the behavior of those members would not come to me.
Thank you. And through you, Acting Chair, are counselors involved in you? If somebody makes a complaint against a counselor, would the counselor know that you're doing that, or is it all confidential? At what point, I feel like it's a learning experience too for a counselor to know what the complaint is, and maybe they need to adjust their behavior, whether it was a conduct violation or not. Are counselors generally advised if a complaint's been made against them?
Commissioner?
Through you, Acting Chair. Councillor Davidson, I too believe that it is a learning experience. I'm not a gotcha Integrity Commissioner. There are rules of confidentiality that I must abide by. So if a member of the public, a member of council, or a member of staff brings forward an informal complaint, I have the discretion to mediate with the parties. But if I do not have a mediation, I would go to the member of council, and I would let them know that there is a complaint to see if we can informally resolve it. If there's a matter that is not, does not rise to the level of a complaint, but I believe that I need to reach out to a member of council, I will, advising them that there is the possibility that there will be a future complaint. But whether it is a query, an informal complaint, or formal complaint that I dismiss, I always let the member know, sometimes without the name of the complainant, if I dismiss, that I received a matter, here's what the matter addressed, here's how I addressed it, this is why I dismissed it, and going forward, here are some lessons learned.
Thank you. And through you, Acting Chair, my last question is, does the complainant always receive something from you?
Commissioner?
Acting Chair, to you, Councillor. Absolutely. I don't ever want a member of the public, a member of council, or a member of staff to feel that I have not taken seriously their query to this office. And so even in the case of a dismissal, I will let the member of the public, or whomever the complainant is, know that I've dismissed and my reasons for dismissal.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much. And next I have Regional Local Council DePaula.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you for all you do in executing the the obligations from the municipal act for the commissioner's office and doing so in an unbiased manner. So far, so good. I have one question. You mentioned that in one case you had dismissed an allegation against a member of council because you felt that they weren't acting in their capacity as a councillor. And my understanding is that as members of the board of directors for this corporation, that all of our actions at all times are to be of model behavior. That's stated in our code, and that we never cease to be councillors and responsible to uphold the code. And if you could just enlighten me as to how you made the distinction in that case.
Commissioner?
Through Acting Chair to Councillor DePella. You are correct to an extent. There are some charter rights that we all have as citizens, and one of those is a democratic right. A member of council has a right to belong to a political party, to have political beliefs. As we know, at the municipal council level, you are not based on parties, but outside of the municipal council, in your private life, you are able to espouse political beliefs of a political party. And as long as you are not recognized as a member of council in so doing, you're allowed to do it. That is just one example of where a member of council, albeit always in somewhat of a fishbowl, because yes, you are always going to be a member of council and you're representing your municipality, but you also have private rights and they are guaranteed under the charter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you through the chair, and thank you for everything that you do, Commissioner. During your presentation here, you had mentioned something that kind of caught my attention about not providing favor for any particular party, and while I understand that municipally, would that also apply provincially? Would they be under those same requirements? So if we saw something occurring provincially that appears to be favoring one particular party, would the same processes be available to individuals to file a complaint?
Commissioner?
Through Acting Chair to you, Councillor Thompson, if I understand your question, you're asking if I have jurisdiction to receive complaints as it relates to the action of a provincial member, and is that your question?
Well, not so much in your capacity working for us. It was more picking your brain if you knew.
Right,
that.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. There is an integrity commissioner at the province who receives any complaints against members of that body.
Councillor?
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay, if I see no other comments or questions for the commissioner, we do have a motion in front of us in move, and I understand to be seconded already. So all those in favor of receiving the presentation with thanks. It's passed unanimously. Thank you very much again, Commissioner Gregg, and thank you for your presence. Now we turn to the item. Basically we are talking about the 15. Sorry.
Through you, Acting Chair, will you need my presence any longer with the next item or may I depart?
In fact, Mr. Kirk.
Thank you. Obviously, it's at council's discretion here. We do have one delegation before we would actually get to item 15.1. Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you for your indulgence, Commissioner Gregg. Yes, we do have a delegate, and we would hear from our delegate first before we move on to the item, which is actually basically 15.1. We have to delegate Maria Esper from Markham. This is on item 15.4.3. Please come forward and welcome. And you have 5 minutes to do the presentation. And this is relating to 15.4.3 item, which is relating to the proposed development at 9700 Yonge Street. Yes,
Thank you.
welcome.
Although I am standing here addressing council, I wanted to be on record that I'm also speaking on behalf of my neighbors who live at 79, 81, 82, 83, 85, 86, 89, 91, and 92 May Avenue. I am also a resident of May Avenue. The address you have on file is a business address, only because my address is not a listed address for professional reasons. This is in regards to the proposed development at 9700 Yonge Street. We residents have several concerns we would like to raise, and we have raised in the past. First and foremost are traffic flow concerns. Traffic has increased significantly both on May Avenue and on Yonge Street. Drivers are leveraging the side streets such as May to access Bathurst, Major Mackenzie, and Carville. To travel from Major Mackenzie to Highway 7 along Yonge Street takes well over 25 minutes during rush hour. We were informed that traffic studies have been completed. However, since those original studies were done, condos have already gone up and the center bus lanes have been constructed and the traffic has worsened significantly. Can we see the actual traffic studies data reflecting the number of cars currently flowing on key streets versus forecasted numbers? How long ago were these studies done? Were these studies done by the city or were they done by the developer? If they were done by the developer, you can see that this would be a conflict of interest for us. Have we measured the ratio of vehicles versus bus riders? We want to understand whether, if you claim that bus ridership has increased, have the number of cars on the road decreased or have they also increased? I can honestly say that the bus is usually less than a quarter full, and as I drive along Yonge Street stuck in traffic, I usually only see one bus come by in my 20 to 25-minute drive. Yesterday was the first time we saw car counters on our street since we moved to the neighborhood 8 years ago. Hence, we would like to understand how these studies to assess traffic volumes could have possibly been completed previously, since we've never seen traffic counters before. Have we conducted statistical analysis of accidents in the neighborhood since population density has increased? We can tell there have been more accidents lately on our street and in our immediate area, and we are concerned that increasing traffic volume will only make our streets more dangerous. We have parking concerns. The reference development proposes 658 new units and only 520 parking spaces. Hence, it's inevitable that renters will be parking on May Avenue, which will lead to further congestion on our street. Can we see studies that were done with actual data reflecting parking impacts on the neighborhood streets? We also want full disclosure of urban planning plans for Yonge Street in total. Can we understand this council's view on building height, since the current limit is 15 stories? What is your height tolerance? 24 was not an issue last year. Now 28 is not an issue either. Then what's the limit? We need to understand the rationale as to why there was agreement to surpass the 15-floor limit. And we don't want you to blame the provincial government because you're the ones voting on this. How did you come up with these numbers and based on what studies, data, or algorithms? There are also rental units. While we understand they are needed, why on this parcel of land? There's a significant concern as residents will be transient. Hence, renters will not exercise the same care as resident owners, resulting in devaluation of this established community. We have an immense pride in our homes. How is the city protecting us taxpayers and investors? The David Dunlop Observatory. NASA states that impacts on telescopes are directly linked with light pollution, which is stray light from parking lots, sports complexes, street lights, all of that scattered into the night sky. It's a combined effect of scattered light from these things that manifests as a glow in the night sky and makes it difficult to observe fainter stars in the Milky Way. Has the city funded a study that would be done for the DDO and the impact of the tall towers on light pollution in the surrounding area? The educational impact, can we see the data that the school boards have provided along with algorithms to support this high density development in the area? Fire and police departments, hospitals, medical clinics. We're not sure whether the urban planning includes the impact of these services and the need for expansion. Environmental studies, we understand that the land is toxic and it must sit idle for 10 years before any development can proceed. This complex is being built on a gas station and a park will be constructed right next to it. What studies have been done to conduct it to ensure no risks to the community and the immediate residents?
Ms. Esper, sorry to interrupt, but you are already over 5 minutes. It's 20 seconds over. Can you wrap it up now, please?
Okay. So as you can see, we have several concerns we don't feel that are being addressed. We're not against development, but we feel that at most 15-story buildings should be built at the end of our quiet, mature residential street. If we wanted to live amongst tall, high-rise buildings, we would have moved to downtown Toronto.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now that we have exhausted the presentation, delegation, we're going to deal with the committee and staff reports. And the first item is actually on 15.1, which is, my add also 15.2 is also related as well. But now I'm turning to members of the council to move the items that are actually in the, as I mentioned earlier, 15.1, there's two particular recommendation, A and B, and actual 1 and 2 as well in B as well. So could I have a member of the council move, Council Civilis, you want to speak to it? Thank you. Could I have a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Council Thompson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? I'll carry unanimously. Yes, Council Neil will be back soon, I hope. And moving on, and the next item we have for discussion, and thank you again, Commissioner Gregg, coming in. So now we have the Deputy Clerk in here. So we're moving on to the item 15.4.3, where the delegates just speak about. This is the proposed development 9700 Yonge Street is in Ward 5. Local Councillor, Councillor Karen Civilis. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. Thank you to Ms. Asper for delegating here today. And I want to thank the Aspers for hosting a meeting at their house on Monday, which I attended together with Ward 2 Councillor Scott Thompson. It was we had some very interesting discussions. I want to thank staff for all their help given to me through this matter, the preparing of maps, which I was able to take to the Aspers house and help me in my discussion with them. Ms. Asper, I completely understand what you are saying and where it's coming from. But with respect, I don't understand why this is still a problem. I spent a couple of hours with you on Monday and all the residents who are here today, and I explained the matter as best as I possibly could, as did Councillor Thompson. The matters that you raise, the traffic study, the parking, about them being renters, the David Dunlap Observatory, schools and emergency departments. We did discuss that. Now, I'm not sure what parts of that you still don't understand. I will certainly meet with you, your husband, and any other residents on the street if you are still dissatisfied with what has been told to you. With regards to traffic, you are asking for, if I may, through you, Mr. Acting Chair, you are asking for a copy of a traffic study. Which traffic study are you referring to, if I may, through you, Mr. Chair, Ms. Asper? Which traffic study are you referring to?
Usually, I don't think we would ask a delegate.
I just wanted for clarification.
Mr. Clerk, subject to your advice, but generally
because a lot of questions were asked.
Thank you. Through the chair, I can advise that the procedure bylaw says that, once we're essentially dealing with these matters, it's only really council and staff. However, council can consent to council can consent to hear or ask a question, but that requires council.
Okay,
Yes.
I would ask that, if it's possible through you, Mr. Acting Chair, that
Thank-
council can consent to that.
Thank you for the clerk for confirming. That's my understanding. So of course, as the clerk saying, that's a decision that council can make. So you are making a request to our
Please.
council colleagues to allow for your questioning of the delegate. Any members want to speak to that? Regional Councilor DePaulo.
I'll second the motion to suspend the procedural bylaw for this purpose.
Okay, any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion? Okay, carried unanimously. So we, in this case, suspend the procedure and please ask a question, Councilor Stiglitz.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. Ms. Asper, can you please tell us exactly which traffic study you are looking for?
Thank you, Counselor. To be quite honest with you, I don't know because I was told the traffic study was done, but none of us have yet seen it. And so I don't know what I'm asking for.
Okay.
Fair enough.
That's fine. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. So if I may continue, through you to our planning staff, Mr. Maria, can you please help us or Commissioner, Acting Commissioner Gascalanis, can you confirm that a traffic study was done for this particular application?
Acting Commissioner.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, a complete application was submitted with the applications that are before council today, which are the official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and plan of subdivision. So there are a number of studies that were submitted as supporting documentations for the proposal. Those studies and the information are publicly available. And if we receive a request from any resident or anyone who's interested in that information, we can make that information available.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Commissioner. So through you, Mr. Chair, to Ms. Asper, that's your answer. If you wish to see the traffic study that was done for this particular application or proposal, you can contact my office or you can contact directly the planning staff, Commissioner Gascalanis, and you will be supplied with a copy of that particular traffic study. So I'm just going to go through a few points here, and if I need a second round, I'll need a second round, Mr. Acting Chair. So with regards to traffic counters, through you, Mr. Chair, to our Commissioner of Environment and Infrastructure, do you have any comment on that, sir? Were there counters on May Road, and did they have anything to do with this specific application?
Commissioner.
Through the chair to Councillor Silovitz, I can take that back. I'm not aware of any traffic counts that would have been done by the city. Traffic counts that we do, we undertake on local roads for the purposes of improving traffic safety within local roads. I'm not sure. I haven't read the traffic impact study myself. Staff has and have provided comments in the report, which identifies that they are satisfied. And typically, sometimes developers, through their consultants, do undertake some of these studies and information in order to create and inform the reports that led to the results identified within the contents of the staff report before you today.
Thank you. So through you, Mr. Acting Chair, Mr. Commissioner, you're not, as you sit here right now, you're not aware that this was actually done by the city and that it was done to further any information on a staff report that's already been written and delivered to council.
Commissioner.
Through the chair to councillor, that is correct, not for this application.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So I just wanted to clarify that. And I will, the commissioner will confirm that with me, and I will confirm it with you as to who or what those traffic counters were doing on May. With regards to the parking, this is another conversation that we did have in full, I believe, on Monday, and through many emails as well. There is a specific parking standard that is being adhered to here. If I may, through you, Mr. Acting Chair, to our Commissioner, can you comment on the parking standard for 9700 Yonge Street? And and if you could give us more detail as to why this particular parking standard exists and why the parking standard for this particular site is recommended to be approved.
Acting Commissioner of Planning.
Whoever wants to take that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll defer the question to Manager Di Maria.
Thank you.
Through you, Acting Chair, to Councillor Silovitz. So with regard to the parking rates on this site, they are site specific. They are slightly lower than our required rates. However, that was due to the justification in their parking study. They are providing a number of transportation demand management items in there on the site. So for example, they will be providing additional parking spots. There will be public transit passes provided for the residents. In addition to that, they may be providing car share parking spots. So they have provided justification for the slightly reduced parking rate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manager of Planning.
The other thing that was asked for was a copy of a full urban planning study. Ms. Asper, and to all the other residents, as I discussed with you on Monday and in several emails, our land use planning document is our official plan, and it is available on our website. It's a very large document. You can also go to the York Region website, and you can see their official plan. Those are the land use planning documents that we must subscribe to, and they have received full public consultation. Mr. Acting Chair, I'll go to a second round, please.
Certainly, and you are moving the motion
Yes,
as recommended. Okay, thank you. I do have a speakers list, and next person to speak is Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, Councillor Silovitz has actually asked some of the questions I was going to ask, but I do want to get a little more clarification on the traffic study, because if I understood the delegate correctly, one of the questions was timing. So when, like how recent was this particular study done? So do we have that information?
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, Commissioner.
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, I'll take that back with staff. It would have, unless planning staff has a sense of when that was, we can take that back. The time that the application would have been submitted for review, and then staff undertakes their due diligence and reviews all the technical information provided by the developer's consultant.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, and I'll leave that to Councillor Silovitz to, if you would bring that information back to Councillor Silovitz, and she can work with the delegate. I think another question that was in there was about the process. They wanted to, I think the applicant or the delegate wanted to know, is it the city that commissions the study, or is it the applicant that commissions the study? And what is the process on whoever does that study for how the whole review process goes? So if we could just get a little bit more information on how that all transpires, be appreciated.
Yes, Commissioner.
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, it is the applicant who employs the services of technical consultants, whether it be for traffic or otherwise. And staff undertake, as mentioned just now, their due diligence. We have our own subject matter experts within our various departments, including traffic and engineering, who review parking, traffic impacts, and all the like. These are, engineers reviewing their peers' work from the consultants that result in the comments provided in the staff report before you today.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson.
Right, thank you. And also through the chair, another question that came up was actually a question that I had also asked of staff before the original meeting. And that is the reasoning that came behind the 24 stories and now to 28 stories. And I understand there's a few things about the changes to the podium and so forth that may be behind that. Could somebody just provide a little more details in that respect? It would be appreciated. Thank you.
Acting Commissioner of Planning.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, from the original proposal, there were a number of design changes to address some of the urban design concerns that the city had identified with respect to podium heights, the actual tower floor plates, et cetera. So those changes did then result in a slightly higher height from the original proposal, and that's what's before council today.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I appreciate that. There's also a comment about light pollution, and I'm not sure that was actually addressed in the report. Was there somebody who can comment to that?
Acting Commissioner Planning.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the city has a light pollution bylaw. All developments that include lighting, obviously, would have to comply with that bylaw. So this development will go through a review process as part of the site plan review, and the bylaw requirements will apply to the lighting that is proposed.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Finally, through the chair, there was also a comment about environmental concerns in terms of toxicity, particularly where the gas station currently is. If somebody could speak to what measures typically take place in that regard, be appreciated.
Thank you. Acting Commissioner Planning.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. This is really a building permit process. It'll come at a later stage, obviously. A record of site condition would have to be prepared for the site, having been service station use. And whatever contaminants are found, there will be specific remediation measures required to address that as part of that building permit process before construction of the actual development commences.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. I do appreciate all the comments. I appreciate the delegate for bringing questions forward. And I'm happy to second the movement to have this move forward. Thank you. Those are all my comments.
Thank you very much, Councillor Thompson. Next on my speakers list is Regional and Local Councillor DePaula.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the delegate on behalf of the residents in the area has done an excellent job in highlighting some issues and concerns. There were, very specific questions and concerns that the community has. It was well articulated, and just want to address a couple of the things that were said. In terms of the height and density, I don't think anyone here is happy. It certainly goes against our 2010 official plan. Richmond Hill has taken a number of steps to try and limit the height and density on Yonge Street, but it does keeps getting higher. The province of Ontario put in an act to have more transit supportive development, and in places to grow forces a certain amount of density within Richmond Hill, and at the regional level, the determination is that Yonge Street is the place where there will be heights and densities to absorb the growth that we're mandated to have. So the region has passed an official plan with concentric major transit station areas all along Yonge Street that effectively makes everything from Highway 7 to Major Mackenzie on Yonge Street fall within a major transit station area, which allows for 150 persons and jobs per hectare, which on a site like this of an acre and a half allows for the height and density that's been applied for. And if we were to turn it down, it would simply be upheld on appeal to that provincial Ontario Land Tribunal. There's just no question about that. In fact, it's risky as to what might happen, because the applicant would have an ability to apply for something that's even higher and more dense. Our staff, I believe in this case, have done a great job negotiating with the applicant to secure the public road and to secure a half an acre of parkland that's going to be turned over to the city's control. That doesn't have to happen. It's not remaining in private hands. It's going to be a publicly controlled park by the city. So there's a couple of wins here, and as I said and was said last week at the committee of the whole, there's going to be a tower here, high density on Yonge Street, regardless. But May Avenue is actually better off than Younghurst or Edgar or Westwood and other streets going west off of Yonge Street by virtue of that public road and that public park acting as a buffer to the residential neighborhood. But that doesn't delegitimize all the concerns here. The concerns are all valid, but today we're talking about zoning and an official plan amendment. We're talking about heights and densities and what can occur on the site where really there isn't much we can do. But at the site plan stage, that's when we take a closer look at the vehicular traffic caused by this application. That's when we take a closer look on what traffic measures get put in place on May Avenue. It's likely that there'll be no parking from Yonge Street, a significant way down May Avenue. The residents in this, in this approved project would have to contain the parking on their site. They would not be able to rely on neighboring roads to accommodate their parking. In fact, I don't think there's a major deviation. I'll ask through you, Mr. Chair, to our planning staff. Is there a big change from our standard for visitor parking?
Acting Commissioner of Planning.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, as explained by Manager Di Maria, the delta between the required parking and what is being proposed is just a minor change.
Right.
The transportation staff, as has been noted, has reviewed the study, which includes traffic and parking, and they're satisfied with what the applicant is proposing.
Okay, so in Richmond, we currently have a very high standard for visitor parking. As we look to amend our official plan to come into conformity with the regional official plan. So we are just months away from passing a new official plan. We have no choice but to conform with what the region's already forced upon us. So we're going to do that. That's what eliminates an ability to discuss heights and density here. But we'll likely be reducing our visitor parking. But as of right now, they're complying with a very high standard versus Toronto and other densely populated areas. So there'll likely be a lot of extra parking within the building.
Thank you very much, Regional Councilor Paula. Next on my speakers list is Councilor Davidson, followed by Mayor West. Councilor Davidson.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, thank you to the residents who have come and the delegate. We did speak about a lot of this last week, and I concur with my colleagues. This building is in an area that will have high density. And I know it's really hard when your neighborhood is changing, but the country's changing, the city is changing. And I just want to flag one thing that I heard that I've heard before, and that's some kind of hesitation that a renter is not as good of a neighbor. And the 2021 census showed that a third of Canadians rent. And I'm sure it's changed since then because the landscape for affordability has changed. And a Canada Life Insurance survey of people 18 to 28, more than half of them said they'd given up on owning a house and they plan to rent indefinitely. So the stereotype, antiquated stereotype that renters come and go and they don't care about where they live, I'm going to stick up for those renters. I was a renter for years. I think my kids are going to be renters for a long time, and they are most welcome in Richmond Hill, and they're not lesser because they can't afford a house. And I think you might find they're going to be good neighbors. And those are my only comments. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing the comment, Councilor Davidson. Next, we'll have Mayor West. Mayor West.
Thank you very much. So there's been a lot said, both by the delegate and by my colleagues. I do want to start off by saying thank you to the delegate for coming out, and thank you to the community for their engagement in this. I think that's really important. But I think I'm not going to go through and address each individual issue that the delegates have said. I think some members of council have done that, so I'm going to best use my time on a more general level. this type of building on Yonge Street is exactly the type of building that we're expecting to see on Yonge Street. And I mean, whether we like it or whether we don't like it, this is going to happen. And, this particular application does have a number of aspects to it, which frankly, compared to, others that we've dealt with, is actually a cut above in terms of we get a park out of it, we get a road out of it, we get a significant amount of affordability out of it, and we get the fact that it's rental is something that we're desperately short of in Richmond Hill. So, at the end of the day, we can turn this down. And I think I said this last week, but I think it's really important for all of us on council, and certainly me as mayor, to be honest with people. And, the unfortunate reality is if this is appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal, there's a very good possibility that all of those advantages that I talked about will be lost. And it's not a certainty, but it's certainly an absolute realistic possibility. And we have an example of that. And I mentioned this last week. The Sabella Ridge application that's at Oxford and Yonge was, we approved it. It was a difficult meeting. The community didn't seem very happy about it, and I totally understand that. But at the end of the day, the community appealed it, and the developer went back with the original application, which was bigger, and all of the things that the community, the staff, and the applicant worked hard to address. If the OLT rules in the developer's favor, all of those things will be lost. So we have to decide whether this is something that we could appeal or not. And we have to think about, well, what would be the reasons that we would appeal it? And, you can't just say, well, I don't like it where it is. It has to be technical. It has to be, planning things that would, make a case at the OLT that this does not constitute good planning. And I've heard nothing that I feel would change our possibilities of winning this. I think it's important for residents to think about, well, what do they want there as opposed to what they don't want there? And it's a natural tendency. I totally understand why that happens. But I think I heard last week that, building houses or townhouses or something like that would be preferable. And I understand why that would be the case. But along the corridor in Richmond Hill, that's just not, it's not likely going to happen. And I mean, no one with the land prices being the value that they are would apply for that kind of thing. And, we wouldn't be getting some of the benefits that we would be getting in an application like this that I've listed before. So I think the main thing is, I mean, we're growing as a community, and all GTA communities are growing. We've got provincial policy that suggests that, we have guidelines that we need to adhere to and all that type of thing. And while we're doing that, we're trying to make sure that the benefit of growth is real. And, in a situation like this, I mentioned a few already, but, we're going to get some retail opportunities that don't exist right now. We're going to have the ability to have it, some of the people that live there might not need a car. They may be able to take transit, certainly not everybody, and certainly not right away, but these buildings are going to be up for 100 years. So I think, while this has been a discussion that really has revolved around the disadvantages of growth, and they're real. I mean, there's absolutely no question that as we grow, there will be problems that are going to be created. But we need, as a council, and our staff needs to make sure that what is proposed actually has also benefits. And I think that, there was reference to kind of the overall plan. The overall plan is our official plan. And in great detail, it outlines some of the benefits that growth will have. And again, I want to be clear, I'm not suggesting it'll be all roses and sunshine. There will be challenges that any growing city will face. But I think we're on a good path for this application and others for that to happen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor West. Any other members of council want to speak on the first round? I know the local councilor to move the motion on the second round. Seeing none, maybe I just want to share my thoughts on this. Thank you for the delegate for coming. And well-spoken, articulated concerns, and my fellow members of council actually do look into and further inquire from staff. And I also want to thank our professional planning engineering staff, and they are exercising their due diligence under the professional obligations under all the Provincial Planning Act and policy being followed and so on. And I also want to publicly acknowledge the commitment and the sincere desire of the local councillor continuing to engage the local residents, even though sometimes it might not be the kind of things you might wish to hear. But I think her openness and continue to communicate, engage in the community, and the fact that many of you who were here last Wednesday also here, I guess, a testament. And thank you, Councillor Thompson, actually joining the local councillor back on the Monday meeting. I actually raised a question about the potential environmental contamination, but it was already raised again, so I'm not going to touch on it. I just want to point out a fact, because comments were made about the ridership, I gather, if I can quantify it that way, categorize that way, on the York Region Transit. In fact, it was just Monday, May 6th, York Region released the report on the ridership, total ridership, not just on the Young Line, in 2023. Is actually an increase of 36%. So we would like it to be more riders, but actually the trends or pattern is getting back to the pre-COVID issue level. In fact, we're talking about altogether about 440 conventional and about 90 rapid transit buses, which are probably the ones referred to on Yonge Street. So this is the movement, so to speak, to particularly on Yonge Street and other places where it was designated as the major transit corridor to encourage and with more people getting on using public transit. And in some respect, I'm not a planner, that has something to do with the parking ratio, which actually the province was actually having a say on this should Bill 185 would be passed. So I'm not going to reiterate what my colleagues are saying. I did also say last week, and I understand the concern about changes. To be honest, I have a hard time adapting to changes. As I shared last week, when I first moved into Richmond Hill, there's nothing on Highway 7. And look at what Highway 7 is now. So it's challenging as it may be, there is a growth. And in this case, my colleagues already mentioned, the mayor mentioned, there's the staff are doing the best in terms of getting the outcome with the additional park and other things. So I understand it's not an easy kind of adaptation to the change, but it is what it is. So on that note, I'd like to turn to local councillor Civitas for the second round to move for the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. Just to update everybody who is here, I have received an email from Mr. Hubert Ng, who is our Manager of Transportation and Traffic. And in the email, he says, I can confirm that the traffic counters on May Avenue are not part of the development application for 9700 Young. The traffic counters are deployed through the city's traffic data collection contractor for spring counts. The traffic study for 9700 Young was completed in March 2024 by a company called Tylin, T-Y-L-I-N. And as we've said before, it is a public document, and I will make sure that you get copies of that document. If we can send it to you electronically, I will do so. Otherwise, if it has to be a hard copy, I will make sure that I get it to you. So there's just a few things that were not discussed that I would like to discuss to make sure we are, for clarification here. With regards to the schools, as I have discussed with with you at length. We do not, the schools are under the purview and the jurisdiction of the boards of education. It's not under our jurisdiction as a municipality. And in this particular report, the school boards have said they have no objection. I understand the concern about schools, but if I would respectfully suggest that if you continue to have a concern about the schools in this particular area, that be taken up with the Board of Education, boards of education, and our trustees. With regards to the comments made about emergency vehicles, that is also something that is in this staff report. Fire has done their due diligence, and I trust that they are quite capable of making those decisions, as are our professional staff who bring these very important staff reports to us for these very important decisions. With regards to the gas station and the environmental assessment for that, as I discussed with you, it is an ongoing thing. Certain parts of it have already been done. Certain parts of it will continue to be done once those gas tanks are removed from the site. But it's an ongoing thing. It's not something that's done and we're there. So I can assure you that through our engineering department and the Ministry of Natural Resources, there is no way that anything is going to be built on the subject land if it's not safe, specifically with there being a public park there. We'll just go back for 1 minute to traffic. One of the questions that was raised on Monday at the meeting at the Aspas House was that there is a fear, and I understand that it's a very real fear, that for some reason, because of this particular construction at 9700 Yonge, there's going to be overnight parking allowed on May Avenue. That's just not going to happen. I've discussed that with planning staff. We have a bylaw about overnight parking on our streets, and that bylaw is in place, and that bylaw will stand. And I can tell you as your councillor, there is no way I will ever accept, and I'm sure if I speak for members of council, there is no way I would ever accept that there would be overnight parking on May Street, on any street, because of the intensification development that we are bound to have on our intensification transit corridor known as Yonge Street. So I'll make sure I get the traffic study to you. Again, I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank you for meeting with me on Monday, coming to the committee of the whole meeting, and some of you were also involved in our council public meeting, which took place last year in February. Your thoughts, your comments are very, very important. From my perspective, given the amount of time I've spent on this, trying to explain certain issues to you, I'm at a bit of a loss as to why some of those issues are still appear to be hanging. And again, I'll sit down with you whenever you want. My office door is open. We can have another residents meeting. I've already offered that to you on Monday. If you wanted to set up a residents association, I will gladly do that. But I would, if I could just close with this. You may, Ms. Asper, you made a reference to you don't, something to the effect of you don't want us to, push it over to the province or blame the province. But unfortunately, we are creatures of the province, and we are bound by legislation to comply with specific legislative acts that are that refer to land use planning. And we are under those constraints. Like I said to you on Monday, we work in a box. As much as we would like to hop out of that box every once in a while, we can't. So I understand your aggravation, so to speak, and I understand your concern. But unfortunately, this municipality and all 444 municipalities in Ontario are bound by law to comply with provincial legislation when it comes to land use planning.
Thank you, Councillor Silva.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to have the seconder of the motion, Councillor Thompson also want to speak on the second round. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much. Through you, the chair, and thanks to all my colleagues for their comments. Matter of fact, Regional Local Councillor DePaula had talked about how do we really like to see 28 stories there? No, we actually don't. And I know that people are saying, well, your official plans say 15 stories. Why do you allow this? Well, I would love to be able to say that all those hundreds of hours that we put into developing those official plans could all of a sudden make things a hard stop and say, this is all you can apply for. Don't bother coming to us for anything higher than that. I would love to see that happen. Unfortunately, that is not the society we live in. We have a democratic society that allows for people to provide other types of applications, and then there's other processes that kick in that allow for appeals. And unfortunately, our experience tells us what we really need to know at this level. So sure, could we say no? Yes. But like the mayor had said, what would happen goes completely out of our control. And then any wins that we might have had would be lost. Believe me, it is really frustrating. I get it. I certainly don't like it either, but we do have to make decisions that are in the best interests of Richmond Hill. And in that case, I will be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. If there's no other members who want to speak on second round, I would like to call the vote. Would it be helpful, Mr. Kirk, if you can display that motion on screen? It is actually very clearly stated in all kinds of public documents on the staff report. So there's actually A and B. It's a long A, I do understand. Right, I just want to be absolutely clear. This is what Council is going to vote on. Moved by Councillor Civilis, seconded by Councillor Thompson.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, it is very clearly stated, as I mentioned, it's really listed very clearly on all public documents. On that note, I'd like to ask all those who vote in favor, raise their hand, please. And I see that the mayor's also raised his hand. So, Mr. Kirk, this motion has been adopted and passed unanimously. Thank you. Moving on, there is no other business items because the other items has been already adopted on consent early on. We have two bylaws. We don't have any closed session items. So I would kindly, and we don't have any emergency and time sensitive matters. Could I ask a member of the council to move a motion to adopt those two bylaws? Councillor Thompson, thank you for moving, and Councillor New for seconding. Any discussion? No. I'd like to call all those in favor of the motion to pass those two bylaws. Is carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. And this is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at this meeting. Will I have a member to move this? I have Councillor Tree moving this bylaw to confirm the proceeding of council at this meeting, and second by Regional and Local Councillor DePaula. All those in favor? Carried unanimously again. This is another opportunity for other member of council to move a motion to adjourn this council meeting on May 8th. Councillor Civilis is the mover, and well, I thought it's a race for a seconder. I would say Councillor Michael Shield is a seconder. All those in favor of adjourning this meeting. Thank you very much. Again, carry and thank you all for coming. And I appreciate that taking the time this morning. And yeah.